it's massive over here, the Champions League. This new format, people are still getting to grips with. But it was a bit like, we spoke about this previously on a podcast, Todd, with the Red Zone, how you were able to watch the goals show here and keep right across every single moment when a goal went in. What did that mean? How's that changing the permutations? How's that changing the look of the league, etc.? I sort of wonder, first of all, Kate, I'll come to you. Does the Champions League grip you in Australia?
Look, Nat, Todd, there's a rule, I guess, when it comes to reporting in European football in Australia. If Ange Postecoglou ain't in it, it ain't making news. And I say that tongue in cheek. There are obviously a lot of nuffies who have their teams and they do watch it. But the trick is, it's at 1 a.m. or something. And I'm so hyper-stimulated from watching something like NFL Red Zone. I can't even imagine watching that at 1 a.m. You'd be not sleeping for weeks on end. I think it would be chaos. The productivity in our country would go down. I don't know how we would handle it. But in terms of the people who watch football, obviously they pay attention to it. They might watch it later on streaming. I think streaming has really changed the way we watch things. I don't know about you guys, but when I watch things back, often do for NFL games, I'll have to kind of stay off social media until later in the day, and how hard that is to not find out the result is hard enough. But it also kind of comes over the same season as we have in our Australian football, the A-League, and we actually play our own Champions League with the Asian Champions League. So we've got a couple of other things we're watching right now. The Champions League, our premiership winning team, the Central Coast Mariners, actually bombed out in the very first round. That was at the end of last year. So we've got no Champions League excitement at the moment. But we do have the A-League that's going on. We watch a lot of the women's A-League as well. So you're kind of playing with all of these, and it might shock you just slightly to know that Australian media is somewhat parochial in a similar way to our fans. And so I think the Aussie fans, we really do pay attention to when the Aussies are in it. And so the Ange Postecoglou thing is a joke, but not really. He'll get on the paper on the front page if he says something crazy. He's in all our media coverage of that. And that will be the main point rather than the goal. It does sound absolutely electric what you're talking about, but I also find my pillow electric at that time of
night. That's fair enough. To be fair, though, Ange Postecoglou is probably making the headlines for the wrong reasons currently in Australia, just with how bad Tottenham are faring.
It is.
Yeah. I think in the Americas, it's always something to watch whenever the Premier League is involved, because I think most people in North America, Central America, and Latin America, South America recognize the Premier League as one of the top, if not the top league in the world. So when you factor 4 teams in there that are in the Champions League and looking pretty good, it always draws attention. And of course, Man City, having won the treble before, they're obviously one of the top clubs in the world. That always draws attention. I think the time to your point is that it's amazing how it changes for us, because I think streaming not only has changed things, but the invention of TiVo. So you can set your TiVo, hey, I got to work today. I can't, put a phone in the corner of my desk and watch it, but people will TiVo it and come home and watch it later on that night. I think it's fantastic. And I think everyone loves the Champions League. The names, the teams, the clubs, they're the world's best.
And this is really why UEFA wanted to change this competition.
Yeah.
They wanted to add in some more teams. So, that has made the Champions League, the league phase, certainly bigger. But they also wanted the initial stages of the tournament to have bigger matchups, because often when you went back to the previous sort of format of the competition, you had 8 groups with 4 in. And by the time you got to the last match day, some of those could be dead rubbers, because often 6 points was all you needed to get through. So at least in this one, we had an element of jeopardy. I think not everyone's sold on this still, because, we're all a bit like traditionalists. We all like to keep things as it is. But I like the fact that we went into yesterday not knowing the fate of so many teams. And also what was fabulous as well, there were some great scenes at Villa Park, for example, and at the Etihad as well, where both Club Brugge and Aston Villa didn't know what they had achieved. So they were all gathering around phones, checking out what the table looks like. So Aston Villa, when they saw that they secured the final top 8 spot, celebrations wild with the players on the pitch. Likewise with Club Brugge, they just secured their spot in the playoffs. They too were all gathered around phones. Those are the lovely iconic moments that just will stand, I think, in long sort of history, when we'll see just teams gather around phones having to find out the information of whether they've done enough. And for Club Brugge to lose that game, yet they still won. I think that's pretty impressive.